Hey guys, I just wanted to pop in and make a quick video to kind of walk through some of the things on this week's PowerPoint regarding writing in academic context. Now, I'll be going over this really quickly just to kind of elaborate on a couple of points, but I do encourage you to take your time and flip through the PowerPoint that's posted separate from this video and make sure that you read it in detail. And as always, let me know if you have any questions. So when we talk about writing in academic context, that really does include a lot about the writing process, which you are very familiar with because it's the same thing that you've been doing for years, although you maybe don't follow the exact process to a T, and that's okay because everyone's writing process is a little bit different. But to provide a little bit of background information, when I talk about what's expected of academic writing, now this is not applicable to all writing. Your first essay being a memoir, in terms of carefully documenting sources, that's not really necessary because you are the source of that information. But as you write, you want to make sure that you really explain why your writing matters. And that's not in a very overt way as to say this matters because, but to write in such a way that when your reader reads your work, he or she is able to walk away with a clear sense of understanding, a clear sense of the value and the quality of your work. And that all starts with starting with a very clear thesis statement. A thesis statement is the most important part of your essay. It's what the paper is about. It's in that first paragraph, and in this sentence or a couple of sentences, you let the reader know, hey, this is what this story is, without necessarily saying, hey, this is what this story or this essay is going to be about. You also want to make sure that you develop your essay by providing sound reasons and support those reasons by evidence. Your body paragraphs should connect to the topic sentence that connects to the thesis statement, and all of it should come together to make a lot of sense, right? In terms of the writing process, you are very familiar with this. This is your pre-writing, your planning, your drafting, and then your editing and revising. I do say, and you have heard for years, the writing process, and that is because it is just that. As such, procrastinating does not yield itself to the process because it takes time. You might have to start over, double back, and think about it as a recursive thing that's overlapping and ongoing in a way that sometimes math, for example, which is linear, is not really overlapping and ongoing. So do make sure that you allow yourself adequate time to complete any essay that we might have over the course of the next several weeks. Now, when it comes to pre-writing, this is where you generate your ideas. You've been doing this before. Some folks do a lot of pre-writing and others don't, and it really just is a matter of what works for you. But I do want to give you a few ideas in terms of things that you can do. I get all the time, I can't think of anything to write. I don't have anything to write. I have writer's block. Try to use some of these pre-writing strategies such as free writing. Free writing whereby you just take a moment and you write without thinking about the grammar, the structure. It's pretty much setting aside 5 or 10 minutes to write whatever comes to mind. Now, I put in the word focus because, of course, you want to write about what's at hand. You don't want to just come up with your grocery list or something like that, for example. Brainstorming, coming up with a list of ideas. Clustering, which is nothing more than those bubble maps that's connecting circles and lines. And I really like clustering for visual learners because it allows you to see how your ideas are connected. So it's easy to kind of trace those circles outward and then in again to make sure that every part is connected and nothing is off topic and off task. And then, of course, I also encourage you to talk. If you're stuck at your writing, talk with someone. Talk with someone at your house or a friend or a classmate or something like that. Hey, this is what I'm planning to write about, and see if you can express your ideas orally because that will help you kind of fine-tune your thoughts before you actually go into writing the essay. Now, of course, there's a whole PowerPoint next week about organizing using outlines, so I won't really go into that, but just know that we will use outlines over the course of this semester. And then there's drafting, right? A lot of times students think that drafting is writing the final paper, but that's not the case. Drafting is just that. It's taking that circle map. It's taking my conversation. It's taking my outline. And let me put it now into sentences and paragraphs. Now, don't focus on writing that perfect paper first. Just focus on trying to organize your ideas in a clear, logical format. And once you've done that, then you can move on into the revising and editing. which all leads to that final version of the paper. Now, lots of times students think I've revised my paper because I went back, I checked that my commas were correct, I made sure I didn't misspell any words, but what you really did was edit your paper. Both of these are important parts of the writing process, but I'll be honest with you, revising, it carries much more weight, because if we look at this list, actually we'll look at this list, if we look at this list, you can see that you can have a perfectly edited paper that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. In terms of editing, you could make sure that it is polished and pristine. All of your sentences are correct, properly formatted, no errors in terms of structure. But if your thesis statement isn't logical and placed in the correct place, if it's not developed with elaborate topic sentences and organization and support, and if it's not cohesive and unified, and if it doesn't just make good common sense, it can be perfectly edited and still not be a really well-written paper. So make sure that when you revise your essays, you pay attention to both of those aspects. And of course, your final paper should be formatted using MLA format, which there's details here for you, and there's details other places also in the ICR and such. So make sure that you do write using 12-point Times New Roman double-spaced font with 1-inch margins all around. Now, the only other thing I want to add to this, what you already know, so I'm assuming that that was all review, is information about rhetorical situations, okay? When we talk about that, we know that word rhetorical because we hear it all the time in terms of rhetorical question. But rhetoric also means the art of speaking and writing. So when we think about it, I want you to think about what is it that I can do to elevate my paper, my writing to the next level, to make sure that not only is it well written, but it's the best that it could possibly be. And in order to do that, you want to pay attention to the purpose, the audience, your tone, stance, and genre. And when we talk about purpose, this is the why are you writing? The answer is not because it's an assignment, because you want to pass, because I told you to, but really, what's the purpose? What do you hope to gain? What do you hope to learn, explore, or experience? And really, when we think about purpose, there are three general purposes. Are you writing to inform, to entertain, or to persuade? Are you just putting out information like a research paper? Are you entertaining, which is what your first essay will do a little bit, because entertainment is not just things that make us laugh and have a good time, but it could be anything that evokes an emotion, whether it's sadness or joy or any emotion in the range of those things. And then also, are you writing to persuade? Are you writing something using strong language like this should or should not, we must or must not? Those are things that are designed to persuade. So as you go into your first writing assignment, make sure that you ask yourself, what are my goals? I'm trying to inform the audience of this and then entertain them by doing whatever or writing whatever. Now, keep in mind, your audience is very important. Don't think of me or even your classmates as your only audience. Think about for whom this writing is truly intended. For example, if you're writing a persuasive essay about how college textbooks should be free digital resources, then ultimately your intended audience would be any administrator on the collegiate level who could make a decision about something like that. So make sure that you think about the ultimate audience that's beyond the literal audience of our classroom. And then lastly, your tone or your stance. There's a long list here, and the list is even longer, of tone words. But what is it that you can, or how is it that you can convey your meaning? Now, you can alter your tone in a variety of ways, using punctuation, using sentence structure. Lots of short, choppy sentences indicate that you are rushed, or that it's urgent, or that you're excited. So use different strategies to alter your tone. And then also your sentence structure. Long, flowy sentences, again, versus short, choppy sentences, and even your word choice. Depending on what you're trying to say, to whom you're trying to say it, you would choose different words. Now, I just want to go over that really quickly to elaborate on a couple of points. We're not starting your first essay this week. This is a continuation of last week in terms of building those foundational skills. So hopefully this was review for you. Next week, we will start our first essay. So I hope that you will carry on or hold on to this information and carry it over into next week. Like I said, as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know.